Okay, let's dig in. Welcome to the deep dive.
Good to be here.
So today, yeah, we're looking at this stack of sources you sent over, all about data integration,
hmm Data integration, yeah.
specifically open source ELT, and this tool called Airbyte.
Right, Airbyte comes up quite a bit.
And the big question you had was, when does that open source approach actually make sense for a larger company, an enterprise? And what are the real trade-offs?
Yeah, that's the core of it. Where's the sweet spot and what do you give up?
So our goal here is to kind of sift through this and pull out the key insights for you.
Absolutely. And, in today's world, for almost any enterprise, getting data together, it's just fundamental, isn't it?
Totally.
You've got dozens, maybe hundreds of different systems.
Oh, easily.
Yeah.
Sometimes feels like thousands.
Yeah, sometimes. And getting that data into one spot for analysis, that's where ELT, extract, load, transform, that's where it comes in. Moving data efficiently.
Right. Getting it where you need it.
And look, a lot of businesses, they lean on managed services. It's often simpler, right?
Makes sense. Less hassle.
But these sources, they really highlight why open source options like Airbyte are becoming pretty compelling, especially for companies that want, more control, more flexibility.
Yeah, and that flexibility point is huge in the material you sent. It kicks off with this provocative idea, asking something like, what if your data tool could be as flexible as your own engineers?
Right, and just as powerful. Airbyte's positioned as this open source platform with a really big library of pre-built connectors. That's a major draw.
A huge library.
But what's really interesting, according to these sources, particularly with the open source version, is the visibility you get. And the control.
Okay.
You can see you can host it yourself wherever you need to.
Right, on your own infrastructure.
Exactly. And they have this connector development kit, the CDK.
The CDK. Tell me more about that.
Well, it's not just some basic library. The sources describe it as a framework. It apparently makes building custom data pipelines much, much simpler.
Okay, so for those tricky internal systems.
Precisely. Or, those niche third-party tools that the big managed services might never support, the CDK lets you build your own connector.
So you get the keys to the kingdom, essentially.
Yeah.
Build almost anything.
Kind of.
And this is where it gets interesting, right? That's where the rubber meets the road. That power, that flexibility, it comes with a big choice.
Yeah.
And definitely trade-offs.
Huge trade-offs.
Your sources really contrast Airbyte Cloud, the managed version, with the, let's say, hands-on, self-hosted open source version.
They do. Airbyte Cloud, well, it simplifies a lot. They handle the servers, the infrastructure.
The operational side.
Right. And many common security certifications, things you'd expect. They take care of that operational burden. But if your company has very specific needs, maybe non-negotiable requirements, like super strict data residency.
Meaning the data absolutely cannot leave our network.
Exactly. For compliance, maybe? Or if those custom connectors we just talked about are absolutely mission critical.
Then self-hosting makes sense.
And self-hosting the OSS version gives you that ultimate control, but, and the sources are really clear on this, this is not just plug and play, not by a long shot.
Right, that's the catch.
Yeah.
Running the self-hosted open source Airbyte, it demands serious internal engineering capability. Real muscle.
Totally.
We're talking, needing people skilled in DevOps, managing infrastructure with tools like Kubernetes.
Which orchestrates container?
Yeah, and Docker for packaging the apps, cloud provisioning, operating complex systems reliably. It's a lot.
That operational reality, it's a massive theme in these sources. They really stress that deploying and running Airbyte OSS, especially at scale, you are basically managing a core piece of your data infrastructure yourself.
You own it.
You own it. You need skilled engineers, not just for the install, but for ongoing orchestration, figuring out scaling when data volumes spike.
Which they always do.
Right. Implementing proper monitoring and being ready, like 247 for incident response when things inevitably break.
And that really crystallizes the critical trade-off, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
You gain that immense control. You can meet very specific needs, maybe HPGA or GDPR compliance, by keeping everything locked down in your environment. But you take on all the operational complexity and the cost that comes with it.
Exactly. So if your organization maybe doesn't have that deep bench of DevOps and data platform experts just sitting ready.
Or if pulling engineers onto infrastructure isn't the best use of their time.
Right. If it's not strategic for you to manage that kind of infrastructure, then the sources suggest Airbyte Cloud, or maybe even looking at other fully managed ELT services could actually give you a better total cost of ownership and probably get your value faster.
Faster time to value, yeah.
Makes sense. It's about balancing control with complexity and cost.
So, okay, let's try and wrap this up for you. What does this all mean? Airbyte, especially the open source flavor, it's clearly not just another tool you download and install. It's more like a strategic commitment, isn't it?
That's a good way to put it. A commitment.
Think of it like this, maybe.
Right.
Airbyte OSS gives you that ultimate control, the power to build exactly what you need. It's like having the keys to a really powerful custom machine shop.
Okay, like that analogy.
But you have to set up the shop, right? You maintain all machines, you hire the expert mechanics, you keep the lights on.
You run the whole operation.
Whereas Airbyte Cloud is maybe more like renting time at a super well-maintained, highly certified factory. You have less control over the specific machines maybe, but way less operational headache.
That captures the difference pretty well. Convenience versus control, with operational load being the deciding factor.
So the choice, fundamentally, it really hinges on being honest about your team's current skills.
Right? Yeah, an honest assessment.
Your willingness to invest in building up that operational expertise if you don't have it. And how strategically important is having that absolute control versus the convenience and, frankly, reduced overhead of a managed service.
That's the calculation every enterprise needs to make.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, the final thought for you. How do you actually do that honest assessment? What does evaluating your team's capacity and strategic priorities really look like in practice? Because that answer is going to heavily influence whether open source ELT, like Airbyte's OSS version, is genuinely the right path for your specific situation right now.
That self-assessment is key.
Something definitely worth thinking about as you weigh your options for data integration. Thanks for diving in with us today.
Yeah, great discussion.